Oh, yeah. Well, I opened this one and new one. This is the old, this was the beginning of the order.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll close that.
that's okay.
It's just not.
Sorry, Tom.
I'll press it back.
We'll charge it for you. We'll charge it to the.
Okay. Yeah, I'll Thank you.
I have 3 extras.
Usually I don't do them, but today we got back to sorry.
Yeah.
So I just cranked it out and sent it to you.
Okay. There's no one on with me. We'll begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no presentations tonight. The first items up on the agenda are public hearings. The first one is regarding the matter of the joint increase and improvement of the facilities of sewer districts numbers 2 through 11 in the town of Ticonderoga. Here's Tom, he's got it. Here. In the town of Ticonderoga. This specifically is for the phosphorus and collection system work projects that has been discussed at the Water Sewer Committee, and I think we talked about it at last month's meeting as well. There are water infrastructure improvement monies available this month. We submit applications, and this is part of the submission requirement to have a public hearing and to pass a bond resolution moving forward on that project. As I've said before, this is not necessarily definite to go through, but at least it gets us in the ballpark of being able to apply for grants, and then the board in the future, once we determine whether we've been awarded any money, can make a decision as to whether or not we want to proceed with it. So at this time, I will open it up. Actually, I'll make just 2 other additional comments on this one. This particular project is for phosphorus reduction and collection system upgrades that are mandated by the Department of Environmental Conservation for our wastewater combined sewer and stormwater collection system and wastewater treatment plant. All in all, the project is approximately $10 million, and the phosphorus project has already scored 0% hardship, which is good. As you remember, recall, we received $1 million on the previous component last month on a ventilation project, a permanent ventilation project. And in addition, we're hoping that the collection system component of this project would score another $5 million in water quality improvement program funding. So we have some good opportunities here to continue to do the good work of improving our wastewater, stormwater collection systems in town. And so at this time, I'll open up the floor. Anyone who would like to comment on this may do so at this time. Just please come forward and state your name. Okay. Greg, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add to that, or
You covered it all unless you have any questions for me.
Dave, Tom, any questions? No. Okay, that being no questions, we'll go ahead and close that public hearing. The next public hearing is with regard to the budget. I will brief overview of the budget. For those of you who may not know, the budget is available on the town website under budget and finance. It is the preliminary budget. Before we can adopt it, we are required to have a public hearing, which we're having right now. And our budget for this year is an increase of 1.34% from last year. It reflects a 2% wage rate increase across all departments, except for those that may be governed under collective bargaining agreements. It also incorporates an 8.9% health insurance increase that we just negotiated with New York State. There are some reductions to the different retirement divisions within the town. We have two between the employees' retirement system and police and fire. One of the big things we added to the budget this year, every year we've continually been improving, refining it. This year we implemented a new asset management allocation for all departments. So if you have a copy of the budget, it is on, depends on the department. For the A fund, the general fund, you can see the new allocations have been listed on page. On page 36. Last year we have, because of all the good work that the board has been doing over the last several years, we've been able to increase or decrease our expenditures and our appropriations in balance with our revenues and open up some new line item fundings. So we included sidewalks last year, and we're funding that again this year with another $100,000. We've also gone through all the major departments, so that being buildings and grounds, highway, water, sewer, and police, and their corresponding capital reserve taken into account what their estimated annual appropriation should be to maintain properly functioning equipment. And so for this year, we have $71,000 going into buildings and grounds. And actually last year we had two, police equipment doesn't have anything this year because last year we put money aside specifically for the purchase of a new vehicle. And they currently have plenty of funding for the next new vehicle on their rotation schedule. So all in all, we're doing very well with planning into the future. Let's see what else. We did have some 2021 carryover, which helped reduce the overall impact to the taxes. And that is due to some of the programs that we were unable to fund this year due to COVID, such as the summer program and the after-school program, as well as some other line items that just didn't get a chance to be realized this year. So we're utilizing the monies that were levied last year back into next year's budget. With that, I will open it up. I will open it up to the floor. Anyone has any questions on the budget? Oh, I didn't recognize you, Mr. Good to see you.
Nice to see you all. I don't know if you had an opportunity, I know that you had an opportunity to look at the email that I sent today, encouraging you to fund two different things. One is to set aside some money for the town to do a downtown visioning, community visioning project, which is something that is having an impact on our ability to have an updated plan that works for updated funding for downtown.
You did a comprehensive plan?
What's that?
A comprehensive plan?
No, it's downtown development plan, which is the subset of it. Rather than trying to tackle the whole comprehensive plan, you might build on it by doing sections of it. So that section in particular would help us be eligible for the DRI, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative of the state, which is a one-time $10 million
Right.
investment that they would make in our town. Today, Alicia Bartlett from Pride, Matt Fortright from the Chamber, and I gave a presentation to the Downtown Development Work Group of Northern Forest Center, which is an organization that's highly active right now, helping all kinds of other towns with new initiatives for attracting new residents, downtown development, a bunch of other things. There were 80 people from the North Country, including people from leaders from ESD and other state funding sources that were on that call today. We did a presentation about downtown development here. We've really done everything that we should do to get on their radar for the DRI, but we don't have an updated downtown plan, and it hasn't involved recent community involvement in that plan. So that's something that we would really probably push over the top for a DRI if we could get that done. And the next DRI cycle is in May. So if we could do that through the first few months of the year, that would be very much to our benefit. And the other thing that I would like to respectfully request is some funding for Thai Alliance. We're the only one of the major economic development groups that is fully funded by the money that we raise. We are doing great work that is really impacting this community. We are an entity of the town itself, the only one that is, and the only one that doesn't get state and county and federal funding. So we could really use your help in just things like our audit costs annually that keeps us as a resource for the town to be able to buy and sell property, issue bonds, all kinds of things that we ultimately down the road would hope to have the capacity to do, but our audit is essential and a very costly thing administratively. So.
Thank you, Doug. Anyone else? Board have any questions on the budget itself, just the general highway, because we'll talk about water sewer next.
Want a little more time to review it, so, but that's okay.
You have some questions or?
I have a few questions, and I have some things I want to review before I bring it up. I haven't.
I guess the only other thing I would just mention is getting back into inventory, only because I just would like the public to be aware of some of the costs. Especially in consideration of other ongoing projects which will continue in the next year. The highway equipment fund, including trucks and other equipment, currently is at about $3 million, $3 to $4 million.
What page are you on, Chuck?
This is not in the budget,
Oh, okay.
but if you actually, what is in the budget is, if you go to page, the highway department, page 47, you see capital reserves for highway equipment is at $123,500. That money is associated with that $3 million that of all the equipment that the highway department owns and operates, and replenishing it on a regular basis. So we've looked at every item, we've evaluated its current condition, its longevity, when we anticipate we would be replacing an item, how much that replacement cost would be, whether there be any surplus money, and not surplus, but if there be any monies to come back from sale, or if we surplus it, took out bids on the items. So that $122,000 is what we're allocating for next year based on that $3 million total assets for the highway department. So just to give the town a feel of numbers, I mean, we haven't really talked about those. We haven't really had a very robust list of the equipment in the past. So I just think it's important that the taxpayers realize that we've now been able to include that in an annual line item and give some consideration to what's required every year. And no different than what I just showed you on the previous page, 30. It's 36. So, and again, just $3 million for the highway. Buildings and grounds is around $250,000, and water sewer, of course, theirs is joint in terms of costs. Theirs is about $1.25 million. Okay, if there's no other questions, we will go ahead and close this public hearing. And we will open the next public hearing, which is the public hearing on water and sewer rate increases for 2022. I have a chart, I apologize, I don't have it printed. In general, rates going back to the early 2010s till present have increased at roughly a 3% increase annually. There were a few years where the rates were held constant, and while we were trying to assess exactly where we stood financially, and then they have increased since then. So the rates for the water next year will increase $4 a quarter. They are currently at $108 a quarter now, and they will move to $112 next year. And the sewer, likewise, will move an increase of $4 per quarter. Currently, it's at $140, moving to $144. And these costs increases for water, just a couple notes here. Water basically breaks out Chilson and Eagle Lake separate from the rest of the contract and district users. So the Chilson and Eagle Lake have remained at $96 a quarter for several years now, since we've been taking on new debt for the well system. And so put Chilson and Eagle Lake aside for a minute. Just talking about the village itself, we've now we go into long-term financing here shortly. Potentially the end of this year or next year, early next year, we're looking at about $325,000 annual debt service that we'll be making. So the budget for this year's water is roughly $1.24 million, and about a quarter of that is the debt service for the recent upgrades to the system, which is about $10 million, zero interest. And the zero interest is really critical because without that zero interest, it would be several $1 million more. So we've done pretty well with trying to continue keeping our rate increases low and still taking into account new features such as the asset management and how to incorporate new debt service into the total cost per operation. When it comes to sewer, we've just gone to long-term on sewer. That debt service, along with the previous one, is about $417,000 annually. The total expenses for sewer this year, $1.33 million, and the rate again is $4 more than it was last year. That's all I have for those two. So I'll open it now to the public. If there's anyone from the public that would like to comment on water or sewer increases. Yes?
Hi.
Yeah, can you just come up and share with us your name?
My name's Kelly Mandy.
Okay.
I live at 74 Camper now.
Yes, I know.
And just about the water issue that apparently it's been going on for years and nobody wanted to take care of it or whatever the deal Dave did back then or whatever the situation might have been. We still can't, well, okay, I don't drink the water. My dad put the filtration system in, so like everything runs through stuff so it's not ruining my appliance or anything else. Now, I'm lucky that I have my father to do all that, but there's a lot of people that live in town that don't have that resource or option. And it's sad because I wouldn't give it to my dogs, the water. We buy bottled water, we buy that Perita stuff. Like, the water's too hard, it's scaly. My dad's always constantly coming over and switching over stuff. I mean, I know we need water, but you want us to pay more, but the quality is shit. I mean, I'm sorry. I know you can't control that, and you're trying to fix that, but, I mean, how much did you pay for that building down there? Oh, sorry, we did. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just think it's crazy, like, the budget and everything. Like, I mean, that building down there is probably more money than everybody's houses. Some people, not all. You know, that's fine, you know? And I get that you need certain things, but, like, as far as, like, the pumps running and how much it's going to cost yearly and everything else, and I'm not saying we don't need good water. We do need good water. But when do we get there? Because, like I said, like, I have my dad, so, like, my friends replace dishwashers, washer machines, you know, stuff they can hardly afford on top of everything else. And it sucks, and now it's going to go up more. So, like, basically, you push the people out that can't afford it, because I have a couple relatives that have sold their houses this year just to get away from it all and move somewhere else. And that's sad, because they've lived here for, I don't know how many years, like 12, 15 years, maybe 13. Like, it's rough, it's hard. But there seems to be no solution to it. Like, it just keeps coming.
Well, I empathize with what you're saying, and this is not easy for the town either. The concerns you bring up are the ones that we face, been facing for a while. I can't speak for what's gone on in the past. I mean, we'd have to go back and ask those different administrations how come work wasn't done when it needed to be done, because a lot of maintenance has been deferred.
Right.
But to your point, I mean, I understand you're commenting on the hard water, and I believe in your area, I'm not quite sure what the hardness is in your area in comparison with, say, further north, from the north of town, because I think in that area it might be more predominantly Lake George water, coming from Lake George. But the hardness is definitely different than what everyone else has been experiencing, certainly, because it's all been surface water. And I think those are some of the challenges that the town's going to have to work through. From the town standpoint, though, from a liability standpoint, we need to follow regulations, because while hardness is a quality that people find to be frustrating. Certainly, if people got sick on the water, like in Flint, Michigan, and other places around the country, that's a lot more serious as far as the liability associated with the municipality providing water to its constituents. So I don't have an answer for you per se, but I definitely feel for the frustration. I know a lot of people are frustrated by that, and it's hard for this board to try to figure out.
I mean, I get it, because they just let it go for so many years, and I understand that, and I get that. It ain't broken, let's not fix it. I get it. Completely understand.
Well, I don't know that it's not broken. I don't know that that's really the accurate statement, but yeah, for whatever reason they decided to push it off, it was too expensive or whatever the rationale was. But this has been a known problem for a while. We've been on filtration avoidance since the 90s.
Right.
We've been out of compliance for decades, so this is not a new thing. It just happened when the Department of Justice got involved and said, listen, you need to take care of this, or we're just going to fine you. And so, to your point there, I mean, if we receive fines and didn't do anything to the water system, those same people would be receiving rate increases and impacts associated with monies that aren't going to the water system, but purely just paying penalties or fines simply because the town hasn't made any action. So I think your question is a valid question. I think it's going to require a town discussion onto what to do to solve it. There's a couple of different options out there, but obviously, as a ratepayer, it's coming out of your pocket, whether you decide to install a system in your own home,
Right.
such as what your dad has put in for you, or whether the town decides to do a municipal-wide system and go through the pros and cons, cost-benefit analysis of those two options. And that doesn't give you any
No, not
It
really.
doesn't bring any.
It's just more frustrating,
I
actually,
realize
believe
that.
it or not. And I know it's not your fault, because per se, you didn't do it, like you said, it's been building up for years, or whatever the deal was, and then they brought the state in to get funding or whatever, and they were like, you can't do this, and then they fined you. And then here you guys are like, oh my God, they fined us, now what do we do? I mean, I get it from all points of view, I understand it. It's not that I don't, it's just that, when is our, you know, when do we figure it out? Like, no offense, you guys got, and I know this has nothing to do with the subject we're on per se right now, but like, the portage is all right. And that's fine, whatever. But they have a water fountain, or a fire hydrant outside my house that's running a hose to it. Water's gonna start freezing. Like, what's going, you know, I've had a swamp all summer. Mosquitoes, like, you know, I mean, I get it. I'm not, you know, I live where I live, but I just can't mow the lawn there. You ask them to shut it off, they come up, they shut it off, it dries for a couple of days, I do mow it, and then they tell my husband it has to go back on. We're breaking more pipes. So my question is, is that just gonna run all year? That fire hydrant to the hose?
We could address that one separately, because for this particular topic, it's just on the budget.
Okay.
But you are, I mean, there's a lot that's been going on in town.
Right.
And once it's finished, I think people are gonna look back and say, wow, you know, look what
Right.
we've been able to get done. But obviously, in the thick of it, people are frustrated because, in your case, you're right next to it, so you have to deal with that, right? People are on the portage, they're constantly dealing with having to run up a rough rough road, or people having to deal with rocks that are coming down their sidewalks, or things like that. So,
Right.
I mean, it's like everything else, you know, there's a certain hardship period, but if you can just get through that, and it's been about a year and a half since you started, and we're not very far from the finish line. They're ready to start paving, you know, tomorrow, or today, I guess, when it wasn't raining, but soon. And once that starts happening, then, you know, it'll just crescendo when we're finished, and then you're concerned about the water.
My concern is once they shut it off, the fire hydrant, not that they shouldn't, because they should, but if they can't figure it out now, how to shut it off and keep it off without bursting another pipe, they're gonna pave all that, right? And then more pipes are gonna break.
We're not waiting on equipment to come in to fix the pressure issues with the hydrant.
Okay.
So it is coming.
Okay.
It's taking a while to get everything here.
So then there is a solution to that whole issue?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's our engineer, and can speak to, I don't recall the timeline, but he would be able to tell you when that's gonna be. But it's all done just so we don't break any other pipes. The pipes on Portage are all new, they're not gonna break.
No, I
It's
understand.
all the side streets.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Kelly. Good points. It's not really on point for this particular thing, but they are relevant because it does factor into what you end up paying.
Right.
So thank you. Thank you for coming today.
You're welcome.
Donnie, you had your hand up. Did you have anything? No? Okay. Anything else?
Just one quick one, Joe. I just wanted to thank Officer Bush. He lent me a hand this morning in helping somebody. I had about pre-dawn hours. I had a guy in a semi-truck who locked himself out of his own cab, and he wasn't local.
We can do that in our public.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you switched over.
No, we're still in the public.
Oh, sorry about that.
Hold that thought.
Yes.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, anything else on the water and sewer rate increases? If not, we'll go ahead and close that hearing. Okay, so just a short opening remark. We've had some more deaths in our county over in recent weeks, as well as still climbing COVID positive cases and breakthrough cases. So just another reminder to the public, if you haven't been vaccinated, please really consider vaccinating. Being vaccinated is a much better deterrent than not being vaccinated. So please just give that some consideration. There is no Board of Health report for tonight. So now we'll move into public comment. If you'd like to tell us again about Officer Bush and his assistance.
No, just, I mean, it was just not, he did an excellent job. I mean, I called him during shift change, which was probably the worst time. Those guys can never get called right in the middle of shift change. And he did his best, and he eventually got, the trucker back into his cab so that he could get going. And, so I mean, it was, it's just nice to thank people every once in a while, so.
Thank you. That's great that you brought that forward. I appreciate it. It's good to hear the good news.
I hope this is not an order, it's just on the COVID issue. There's several people here tonight coughing, and I realize it's a dry hat cough. But I saw my doctor yesterday in Glens Falls, her husband's an ER doctor, and I just want everyone to know that Glens Falls is loaded. And it's not all COVID, it's loaded with everything, broken backs, car accidents, COVID. And my doctor, the ER doctor, he said, Steph, we can't keep up. He said, and this new variant is highly contagious. He said, everybody should have a mask on. And I'm offering that up because as leaders of the town, you guys set an example, and I'm not criticizing at all. But when people are coughing and the masks aren't on, it just kind of, be careful.
Thank you, Steph.
That's like, that was perfect timing. Well, I noticed all you that were outside.
Is everybody leaving the room?
I took my mask off just so I could talk, but I don't.
Bad timing.
I'm having trouble understanding people with a mask on, that's my problem.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
trouble understanding me.
I have to go back and listen to the notes.
Point well taken, though. Thank you. Anyone else with public comment? Okay, we'll jump into first report out, which is Public Works. And Greg is here. I'll let Greg have the floor. You can give an update. And we can jump into a whole litany of resolutions.
You want to go through them by resolution? That's most of my updates anyway.
Yeah, that's fine. So the first resolution is not related to Greg. It's just a normal housekeeping resolution. Resolution to reflect a 2.0 EDU sewer rate change for Sewer District 05. And 2 EDU sewer rate fee charge for Sewer District 09, and a 1 EDU debt service fee for Sewer District 9 for the residential property located at 388 Black Point Road, Mary Jo Real. This is basically increases because of the dual use on that property. So we went through all the breakdowns of how that happened in our sewer.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So carried. I had a thought, I'm sorry, I lost it, I'll let you go ahead.
I have 3 change orders for reported for real construction. The first 2 are no cost change orders, putting together a few changes in design. The first one, we made some changes to some of the storm system. We found some additional stormwater on Battery Street. We needed to add some additional gates for control. And the cost is covered, there are some additional costs, but it's covered within the existing budget. Number 6 is adding some additional curb. There's a couple sections on Champlain that weren't included in the original design, so we added those back in. That also fits within the current budget. And then the third one, number 7, is actually an add that actually is for the ERV equipment to reduce the pressure to take care of the pressure issues. So that as an add to the project overall at this point, because we went through the existing budget on the project, it looked we pretty comfortable that we're about $100,000 under budget, not counting this line item. But to split the costs is kind of a pain work-wise. We're basically adding this cost in, and then some of that will come back off at the end, pending anything else not popping up or final quantities. But we're just getting into paving. There's, it's pretty easy to add a couple extra storm yards and things. So I think budget-wise, we're going to come pretty, unless something else happens. I think we're past the point. Hopefully, if much else happening, we're going to come pretty darn close to right on budget, even some changes, and I think adding some things and some changes.
Is that dollar figure correct for?
No, so I kind of had my staff on their producing document, so it should actually be $176,443.
And change?
No,
0?
0.
Okay. And also a resolution to approve real construction incorporated change order number 5 for the Portage Street and utility reconstruction project at a no charge, no change charge for drainage design modifications due to differing site conditions related to buried drainage lines discovered on Battery Street.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. The second is a resolution to approve Real Construction Incorporated change order number 6, same project, at no change charge for 300 lineal feet of curb and sidewalk replacement along the west side of Champlain Ave from Father Joe's to the Burley House, 135 Champlain Ave.
I'll move it.
Second. David, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So carried. And the third one is a resolution to approve Real Construction change order number 7 for the same project in the amount of $176,443 and 0 change to add a pressure reducing valve vault and related piping and valves.
I'll move it.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Before you jump on to the next one, I was just thinking, Kelly, you were speaking, I thought you were going to talk about something else, but the town passed a sewer ordinance, only because we had talked about this, I had a conversation with your dad. And hopefully the next administration will work on updating a water ordinance. And in that sewer ordinance, we actually gave a relaxation for those who may take on properties in town
Okay.
that have gone to foreclosure, and to give them time to improve upon them before they're receiving a full rate. Because I know it was something that I had conversations with, not only with them, but also other people in town. So I just want to know that even though you're coming here with some other challenges associated with the hardships of the hardness of water and so forth, we're trying to find opportunities for people who want to take advantage of a situation and make it better for the community,
Right.
to receive some relaxation moving forward. So while you're here, I just wanted to remind
I'll
you know.
Greg, is that $176,000 just the cost of the valve?
No, it's,
That's it.
there's actually a couple other valves going in. Yeah. And then just in general, update of the portage, so they're prepping for paving today. I believe they're starting prepping, they're going to be paving tomorrow, although it might be a little weather dependent. They're still working towards getting the majority of paving in this year. There definitely are going to be some sidewalks and some things to finish up in the spring. But and hopefully winter holds off for a couple more weeks and finish the paving in. Is there any other, I don't think there's any other updates other than just working as hard as I can to get everything done. Is there any other issues that popped up for you guys? So I think that's it on that one. So the next resolution, there's the long-term control plan is the engineering report we're doing on the collection system for this requirement, and you have a $100,000 grant. I just need to do an amendment. The EFC changed which of their bid packages they wanted in our contract, so this is just swapping out the one they originally wanted and the one they want now. So no cost to it, it's just changing the paperwork.
Okay. Resolution to approve AES Northeast Amendment number 1 for the AES project number 5001 long-term control plan at no change to replace EFC bid package for EFC contract review. I'll move it.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
And then the next one is a new contract for us. It's in relation to the grant, basically the new sewer projects that we're putting forward. The grant application that we're putting requires a contract to be in place. So what we have is a contract proposal for $24,750 to basically do the grant applications and do the preliminary design if the town moves forward. At this point, it's just finishing up these grant applications. If you guys, for some reason the project ends up stopping, we can stop there, cover some of our costs of grants in the last couple of months. It's a bit billed hourly, so it'd be less than this. If we end up moving forward with the project, there'll be work with the grant funding agencies over the next couple of years, and this would get rolled into those funding packages. There's a couple, and then we put it pending attorney review, there's a couple items to work out on it. And this is just, and then eventually this will get replaced with a new contract.
Okay. So 24,750 if we move forward with the project, and something much less than that if we don't. Okay. Any questions from the board? Okay, so resolution to approve contract proposal for preliminary design and grant applications for wastewater treatment plant, phosphorus and GIGP ventilation and collection system separation. 5032 grant application for the wastewater and sewer collection upgrades in the amount of $24,750 as required for the sewer WIA application and pending attorney review. I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
So, and then moving on, so Chilson Eagle Lake, resolution for seeker. Do you want to jump in, Matt, on this, or just pretty basic, straightforward seeker on this, right?
Yeah, no, we updated and provided the secret resolution and the forms. This is a precursor to the bond resolution to file to try to get WIA funding. Pretty straightforward, and you have the parts 1, 2 of the EAF.
We did this last week, last month for the other projects for submission for WIA funding. So I don't know if the board has any questions on this. It's kind of a formality we're going to submit. So resolution pertaining to seeker determining that Ticonderoga Chilson Eagle Lake Water District project will not have a significant adverse environmental impact. I'll move it. All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And then we have a resolution also required for the submission of this WIA funding application. The project costing $8,306,300 in serial bonds to the town of Ticonderoga to pay the cost of the establishment of the Chilson Eagle Lake Water District in and for the town.
So we should just clarify this. People are going to read this and say the establishment of the district is for that actual bond resolution. So discussions that we've had at the committee meeting, the town board had previously committed to the people in Chilson Eagle Lake to try to get as much grant funding as we possibly can. At the same time, the people who live in Chilson Eagle Lake have significant, and I think the town board would agree, justified concerns about the cost. As per the NPR, the map plan report, if no grant funds were secured, it could be $2,500 a year or beyond to make the required improvements to supply drinking water. And I mean, I've been in meetings, members of the town board here said that's obviously not acceptable to the town board, let alone the taxpayers that have to bear that cost. So what we've done here is essentially the best we can to try to apply for these WIA funds, these water infrastructure improvement funds. Usually, in the legal process, you would go forward, we would adopt a public interest order, which you've done on other bonds. We can do it again here in a few minutes, which is part of the formation of the district. But again, the town board has said we're not going to form the district at this time. We're going to try to get grant funds so we can show the ratepayers that we've knocked this cost down. But we are going forward to adopt a bond resolution so we can apply for the WIA funds to show the awarding agency that the town is serious about the project if we can get the grant funding. So it's a bit of a chicken and the egg, cart before the horse, use whatever cliche you want. The reality is, adopting the bond resolution prior to the actual formation of the district, the town could never actually go borrow money on that. Really, we're doing this just to apply for the WIA funds. The awarding authority could say that in and of itself is not grounds to award the grant. If they do, okay, we've gone through this process and for nothing, and we'll keep trying to keep get grant funds. But the reason I wanted to note that is in case somebody after the fact says, procedurally, you didn't do this right, and, you couldn't adopt a bond resolution without forming the district, they are correct. So publicly here, we're telling everybody, yes, we know this, but again, we are in a cart before the horse scenario. We need to go get the grant funds to show the ratepayers what the actual project's going to be, but in order to apply for the grant funds, we can't do it without a bond resolution, right? So we're like, do you go form the district and commit to the thing without having the money in hand, or do you do this knowing that the steps aren't complete yet, but still we're showing everybody we're going to go get these grant funds. Well, come hell or high water, we're going to go get these grant funds. So this is what we've done. We've worked with the bond council. Obviously, again, going back to an actual borrowing, neither Doug's not going to file, Doug, their friend of the town's bond council, is not gonna sign a bond council opinion, and I'm sure it's not gonna sign a local council opinion that says we've done this right. We haven't, we know it. So again, just noting that so that nobody comes running in after the fact, and as has happened in the past, yelling at the town board, you know, claiming you did something wrong. The town board has said, we'll do whatever it takes. You know, and if we get this, and we have to go back and redo the process to actually complete it correctly, that's what we'll do. But we're gonna take a swing at hopefully millions of dollars in grant funds. And this isn't the end. And this is, just this grant is not gonna cover what we need to get this down to an affordable level. This is just the first one that came up. It came up on short notice. We had 2 months. Came out September 21st. We had until November 22nd. So we had literally no time to satisfy the district formation and also apply for this without really upsetting the ratepayers, because that we could have done that process and it'd be done within the 60 days that we needed to apply for the grant. But then that would be the town board kind of going back on what it said it was going to do. So when we throw all that into the soup, that's a long story to get to. Why are we adopting a bond resolution without finally forming the district? That's why. And hopefully on some blessed award, we get a letter early next year that says you've been awarded the funds, and then we'll use that to keep going after more grant funds. That's what we're doing. So we are knowingly adopting this bond resolution that is incomplete, and hopefully we get the grant funds, and we'll go back and fix it. That's our hope, and we're sticking to it. I just don't want anybody to run here and yell at the next administration and say, how did this ever happen? Do what we have to. We told them to get grant funds, and we're following through on that process.
Thank you for the summary. I think it's important. Okay. Read it, so we do the first and second? No. Do we?
No.
Okay, I'll first it. Second. All in favor?
I'm sorry.
Well,
Aye.
we'll call that.
Oh, okay.
Roll call vote, Joyce Cooper. Yes. Joe Giordano.
Yes.
Tom Cunningham. Dave Woods.
Yes.
Next one.
Yeah, so next is the WIA for phosphorus collection system. This one plays off of the work we did last month. We had a pretty good discussion about it last month too, but timing-wise, we had received the GIGB grant work for the ventilation work that needs to be done at the sewer plant. We got that funding. EFC required us to have that funding submitted by a few days ago, Halloween. We got that documentation in. In the meantime, the town received significant award of 0% financing for the hardship for sewer work, and the same WIA program we were just talking about for Chilson Needle Lake got announced in September. By the time that got announced on September 1st, we had already started the public hearing process for the GIGP work that had to be done by October 31st. But we also have the second phase that now that we've scored very well for the actual bond financing, if we borrowed money from EFC, we'd scored 0% hardship for that part of the project. And oh, by the way, the September 21st, the announcement came out for WIA that was due by November 22nd. So we were in between the GIGB part of this, which is part of this project, and got the award. WIA came out. We adopted the bond resolution part for the GIGP so we could meet the October deadline. Then we started the bond resolution process for the rest of that project, which is collections and phosphorus removal, collection system and phosphorus removal. They just overlapped, and it seems like a duplication process or a bunch more work. It is. Usually what we would have done based on past experience is we would have put that GIGP project in our pocket and waited for the WIA round to come out, applied for the WIA round, and then done this all at once. And the GIGP portion, we're throwing around a ton of acronyms. If somebody could stop me and say, hey, stop using the acronyms. We would have done it all at once, but this year they changed it, and they wanted the GIGP stuff faster than we're usually used to. So when that happens, we react, because we're always going to go after as much money as we possibly can. The grant money's there, let's get it. So anyway, long story to get to, on this part, we're adopting the seeker neg deck, which takes off of the, I should say takes off of, builds on the GIGP's neg deck that we did last month. The negative deck being the negative declaration under state environmental quality review. Because the projects are related, we've got to consider them together. So we're doing that. The second resolution will be to actually adopt a public interest order. And that is the step, just jumping back to Chilson for a second, that we did not do in Chilson, right? So the main procedural step not done in the Chilson Eagle Lake grant application is the public interest order that we are doing now. Why? Because those districts are already formed. The sewer districts are already here. So you have to adopt a public interest order saying that this project, town board is determining that it's in the public interest. And then the next step would be authorizing the issuance of the up to $10,120,000 bond resolution, sorry, not bank. The town board is not committing to take out that money. Just a point, I know you guys have talked about that like the last meeting and the committee meeting at the end of October. Not committing to actually go borrow that money right now. The only reason we're doing this is to apply for the grant. If you get the grant funds and the project becomes affordable, then you can proceed. So by doing this, yes, a bond resolution is effective the second you adopt it. So yes, the town board could next week go borrow that money. You could get it in and borrow it. But from what you previously discussed in your overall plan of finance, that's not what you're doing. You're waiting, you've got a go, no-go on the project. You're waiting to see what we can get for grant funds. And then you'll decide if we're going to go forward with this collection system, phosphorus, and the GIGP. Because the GIGP portion will be combined with this to get to the roughly 13 million change project. So procedurally, those are the things you're doing.
Catch my breath.
It's largely procedurally easy, for lack of a better term, for those of us that do it all the time.
Yeah.
But from trying to keep your hands on this, and admittedly, and I know Mr. Wright's here, it's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah.
The town has a lot of projects, the town has been very, very successful from a taxpayer standpoint. You were talking about earlier, you know, sometimes there's a little pain with some of the projects you're doing, but, you know, I work with a lot of municipal clients, and the town of Ticonderoga has done very, very well through many administrations to move that ball forward. You've got, the math, it's tens of millions of dollars in grant funds. You know, people have philosophical issues with whether or not the government should be granting funds, but until they stop granting funds, you got to get in that phone booth and get as much of that cash as you can. The town has scored very well, and you have a lot of need. Certainly, we've just scratched the surface on the water. The sewer, you've done really, really well. The sewer plant collection system is in really good shape. Not that it doesn't need more work, we're doing it here, but the amount of work you have done.
The plant's in good condition.
Absolutely.
The collection system.
Well, and even the collection system here, you up the portage, right? That's
Yeah.
the amount of stormwater that you pulled off of, and groundwater off of that system is gonna pay off in O&M, you know, water that's not hitting the plant. Those aren't dollars you see right now, but over the years, it's gonna save wear and tear on your equipment, and, you know, it's hard to quantify that money to somebody that's worried about paying their taxes right now. I get that, believe me, I definitely do. But over the term, you have to do this anyway, because the infrastructure is gonna fail.
Right.
So you got a plan, and we've executed on it very efficiently, I think, and successfully, so this is the next round.
So resolution pertaining to seeker determining that the town of Ticonderoga wastewater treatment plant, wastewater treatment and collection system project will not have a significant adverse environmental impact.
So moved.
All second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so carried. Resolution to pass this public interest order, you're going to do a roll call on this one? I'll second.
We're all waiting.
Tom, I'll second.
Joyce Cooper. Joe Giordano.
Aye.
Tom Cunningham. Aye. Dave Woods.
Aye.
And then a resolution authorizing the issuance of $10,120,000 in serial bonds to the town of Ticonderoga, Essex County, New York, to to pay the cost of the joint increase and improvement of facilities of sewer districts numbers 2 through 11 in the town of Ticonderoga, Essex County, New York. This is again for the phosphorus removal and collection system project. I'll move it.
Second.
All, do you
On
want
the
to?
roll call. Joyce Cooper.
Aye.
Joe Giordano.
Aye.
Tom Cunningham.
Aye.
Dave Woods.
Aye.
Yep.
And just quickly on a couple other projects. Veterans Road, water main, they're starting this week. That work should be done in about 2 weeks. And then we'll work to move to close out the original main water project. The water district consolidation, we basically finished our final proposed maps. We're working on putting together the actual reports that will eventually be presented to everyone. Lead service line replacement, that work's not going to start until the spring. The work's done by Real and they're finishing the portage. So we talked about at the meeting, putting a follow-up letter out to people that have received notice they may be on getting the work done. So I've got to finish putting that together and working on getting that out the door. So those are the two other things, but those are related. That's probably more than enough on there.
That's plenty. Thanks, Greg. Anyone have anything else for Greg?
Thank you. Hey, stick around for a little bit.
We'll jump into buildings and grounds.
We had a few, well, quite a few repairs. The armory, the tile on the armory, the kitchen on the floor, they had to patch all of that, and we had to repaint it, which is done now. The boiler here in the building, when they got into it, they found interior rot and rust, and they had to go deeper than what they anticipated. So they called me up and it had to be done, so I told them go ahead and do it. They did it, Fred started number 1 boiler, and it had a leak in it. Shut it down, started number 2, we called the American boiler, and they said to run it, and it automatically sealed itself. It was, so we're good with that. We had a leak, the drains are plugged, and leaking into Tiny's office. And, Dale got those on, and the police furnace needed to have some repair, and it's cleaned. And the armory, excuse me, the library furnace, we've had a lot of problems with that. We finally got it going, but they have to do it manually until they get a part that comes in so they can use the thermostat. And that's all I got in regards to repairs or
Did you want to talk about the blasting?
about whom?
The dry ice blasting?
The blasting?
Dry ice blasting in this building.
Oh, no, we already said last meeting that
Okay,
it couldn't be done.
I've lost my.
And we brought it up last meeting, I called him and told him when we got the, and she told us that, so, must have got to do with the water. Do we want to pursue that? To get the building clean?
Well, we'll talk about it, buildings and grounds.
Yeah,
And there was the other request from Sean for the armory.
oh, right,
Those-
yeah.
You have something on there? The shades, right?
The what?
The shades?
Shades for the windows.
Yeah, I went up and measured them, I'm getting prices on them, but they're gonna be expensive,
Are they going inside the
Yeah.
cage or outside? the cage?
inside,
They're split,
yeah.
2 cents?
Yeah, I went up after the meeting and we measured them, and I called Lowe's, they wouldn't even think about it. We might have to make some,
I was gonna say duck cloth and.
yeah, we might have to come up with a go-on solution like the old,
Yeah,
what they've got up there now, has anybody ever seen it?
no plastic.
Well,
Well, it works, it's just.
yeah, it works.
It's just,
I don't think people realize there's a problem with the light in the gymnasium, and it's been causing problems for the pickleball players, and they asked that there be some kind of window cover. Easier said than done.
That's all I got.
All right, I've got a lot of small stuff. This is in regards to Parks and Recreation. We posted town property, in particular the Upward Shoot Trail, and unfortunately it's been reported that a local resident has seen the bow hunter on the trail up there again. In fact, I saw him one day riding his bicycle onto the trail with a bow in his hand, and I decided to not pursue him, but the police have been informed about this. I think perhaps maybe we should consider something like a no hunting sign, which is a little more specific than posted. We could talk about that at the next meeting. We finally gotten some new Christmas lights for our Christmas tree out front. It's been a long process because the company that we order from has the same problems that everybody else is, and that's called not getting the materials. And so they've arrived, and so now we have 4,000 light bulbs to get onto strings to go onto the Christmas tree, hopefully before the end of November.
Well before the end of November.
Well before the end of November.
In the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, our groundskeeper reported to us that we have lost 2 of our groundskeepers. They worked for us for a long time on a part-time basis. It's Dick Bissett and Eugene Alteri. They've retired, which brings our crew down to 3 for the summertime work, which is not adequate. So Tanya is going to, or probably already has, put an ad in the paper for new groundskeepers. These are part-time positions. We do have 2 full-time employees. We have Grant Spalding, who is our head groundskeeper, and we have Jason Winchell, who is the assistant. They're worth their weight in gold, I'll tell you that. Bicentennial Park, I made a special point of thanking our highway superintendent, Sal Barneo, for the improvements he made to the walkway in the park. He improved the roadbed and he repaved the whole walkway. He covered the labor and any materials that were used other than the asphalt through his own budget. And this allowed us not to pave a small portion, which was the southern portion, but to do the whole thing. And if you haven't seen it, it looks great. There's still some work to be done, and Grant is working at filling in the edges, and he will see the area in the springtime. Our groundskeepers also work to take down the equipment in the park. The wooden equipment, if you notice, it's gone now. And nothing will be put back in the ground until next April. If you were all wondering what happened to the wooden statue that we were supposed to be getting put in our parklands, the Parks and Rec Committee decided that that was not an issue that we were going to deal with, so we kicked it to the Montcalm Street Partnership. And after a discussion at the last board meeting, it's decided to have a meeting with Mrs. Whiteley to see what we can do to get the statue out of the art gallery over here and into the ground near the college. That meeting should be taking place this month. There's some property available, and it's the land parcel behind the library. And the library has spoken up and expressed an interest in obtaining that property. It's basically a parking lot and a building, and I don't know what you call the other thing, shed. They'd like to see this parcel purchased for library use, primarily for children and the patrons. Books and the library book sale could also be located at this spot, and they are willing to pay for the appraisal to determine the fair market price for this property. In fact, that's already in process. We also talked about winter use of parklands, and we discussed how the Bicentennial Park and Recreational Park walkways could be used if there is snow on the ground. It was decided that the Bicentennial Park walkway would be maintained for walkers. The Snowmobile Club can use a portion of the park for a trail, but not the walkway. The walkway in Recreation Park can be used for walkers, and a trail created beside it for cross-country skiing and snowshoeing. Snowmobile use in this park would be limited to any trail created and maintained by the Adirondack Snow Riders. I think that's their name. Trail riders, thank you. Road riders would be reported to the police because we had a lot of problems with that last year. And we've invited a representative of the trail riders to our meeting in November to have more clarification on where the trails will be and so on. There was also a discussion about whether the town skating rink should remain at its present location. And there were other areas that were talked about that may possibly house the skating rink. And we also talked about purchasing a liner for the rink because we've had a problem getting because the blacktop melts the ice too quickly. And we're also seeking input from last year's attendant to get his input on what we should do. The Chute Hydro, the lack of and inadequate payments by the power company was discussed. And I'm not going to go into the background of it because I think most of you understand what I'm talking about. I feel that this problem is a legal matter and it should be on the town's radar because we have not received a payment in, 3 or 4 years?
Well,
No, we
we hadn't billed them,
submitted it.
Yeah.
which we just billed this year, so
Okay,
we're
well-
waiting for a payment.
They send us an invoice. We have to submit it to them in order to get paid.
Yeah.
But for the very reason you're talking about, we've been trying to figure out, well, we talked about this a long time ago, but a few other people of us trying to figure out why the payment keeps diminishing, how they do their calculation for those rates. So that's why we haven't submitted them. I mean, we can submit them and get paid, but it's trickled from like 5,000 down to like 1,200, 1,400. It's pretty, and without really exactly why, how the flow rates have changed or how the cost per kilowatt hour, all those charges are factored in there. It's sort of, if we just keep submitting them, granted we want the money, but we're basically saying, okay, we're okay with your rates. So that's why they haven't been submitted.
So hopefully,
But the formula is like, this it's got a lot of variable factors and it's kind of interesting. So anyway, that's
and not only that, the power company has changed ownership at least once,
Oh,
Couple times.
a couple
Yeah.
times, so that doesn't help the process anyways. I have a vested interest in myself because I understand that money can be allocated to the park corridor. And so since that's in my domain, I'd like to see us get some more money if we can.
Absolutely.
We had a nice report from Pride's Executive Director, Alicia Bartlett, and she was discussing the current status of the sawmill project. And although architectural plans have been drawn, a discussion with Fort Ticonderoga's local history experts in the person of Stuart Lilly and Matthew Cagle, they met with Alicia, and I think you, Joe, also. And the discussion centered on ensuring that this structure is historically accurate. And some modifications may have to be made to the architectural plan that's been drawn up. Fort Ticonderoga's help with staffing and historical interpretation of the structure's importance is a crucial aspect of this program. And the committee was receptive to the ideas proposed and the steps taken to ensure the accuracy of the project. And that's the end of my report.
Just one other thing, Tower Electric has got all those LED lights put up in the basketball court. And it's just like daylight down there. It's really nice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Now, the interesting
Already
thing
had a
is,
complaint.
oh, they're too bright? Oh, dear.
Seriously?
Oh, yes. There's never happened here. Yeah.
I'm a little worried about that when we lived in the falls. That if there
From
were-
the neighbors or just?
I have a question.
We'll talk about it
Yeah.
at Parks and Rec.
Is that part of the Eagle Scout project, or is that what the town is providing?
No, all the bulbs are out. I think there's only one left and
Okay, so it's just the lights, they
and
could use this,
evaluate, yeah.
fixtures,
We
okay.
decided to put all LEDs in.
Well, that's great. Glad to hear that. So we'll be meeting on the third Tuesday,
Yeah.
and at this point, I don't have my calendar, but,
You have two resolutions.
Yeah, about 3 resolutions.
yeah.
You got a resolution to accept the resignation of Eugene Altieri as groundskeeper effective October 15th,
With regrets,
with regrets. Are you moving?
yes.
I'll second, all in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Ditto resolution to accept the resignation of Richard Bissett as groundskeeper effective October 15th, with regrets.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And a resolution to add Sean Ross to appoint Sean Ross to the Buildings and Grounds Parks and Rec Committee.
Yes. As recreational supervisor, it's an appropriate placement for him.
You moving that, Joyce?
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
evaluation, there wasn't a meeting, you
No meeting, nothing to report.
Okay, municipal facility evaluation,
We met on October 25th. There was a statement read into the minute, and we had a brief discussion on some items. It was open to the public for a while. There was some public comment made. Everything is in the on the town website. I'm not going to read everything here tonight. It would take far too much time. We do have a resolution that I'd like to put out to the board. It's a resolution to accept ADF proposal number 4955 for professional architectural engineering services, schematic design for a new police station dated December 27, 2021. This is a three-phase proposal. Phase 1 is to perform an evaluation on 4 properties to determine the viability of placing the police station on one of those properties or eliminate those properties as the case may be. Phase 2 is to provide 2 possible floor plans for the police station along with the layout of the entire highway department area. When I say highway department, I'm not talking the building, talking the highway department location. Showing the location of the police station, future possible location of the water and sewer department, and possible location for the buildings and grounds, which was laid out in the Feinberg report that was done back in the day, had all of them on that location. Obviously, that drawing has changed, so we're getting that revised to make sure that if we decide to move in that direction, that we have a plan for the future and don't put a building up where it would then need to be decided it was in the wrong location. And then phase 3 is perform an evaluation of the existing highway department building with cost estimates to renovate the building and cost evaluation to build a new building, so we have a comparison between the two. The total cost for all 3 phases is $35,000. And I'll move that.
Second.
any discussion?
Yes, I don't, I'm going to vote no at this time. I'm saying maybe in the future, but right now we have a couple inquiries on Hudson Headwater building for possible use for the upstairs. I can't see spending $35,000 of taxpayers' money now until we get some answers. When those answers come back, maybe this will be justified and it'll be fine, but right now, I'm voting no.
Okay. Is that still on the table, Hudson Headwaters? Is Hudson Headwaters still?
Yeah, it's still available now.
I thought,
It's, it hasn't been sold.
yeah, okay, there was discussion. Okay, well, I think we've had a lot of discussion on this. I think the municipal facility evaluation committee has been, especially the 4 additional members on it, and their backgrounds. So you guys had a unanimous support in this meeting?
Well, it was a good meeting, but I mean, we had a lot of good discussion on it, but I just think at this time we've got a couple of inquiries about upstairs, and until we see whether it's going to materialize or not, I can't see spending $35,000 for until that's answered.
This is not just for
This is on
the police department, it includes other things as well. But
I think we've made some good headway with some of the other pursuits we've had, and I know there's been some discussion for Hudson Headwater. And I don't know, though I wasn't at the meeting, so I don't know what those questions are still remaining, but I take the recommendation from the municipal facility evaluation committee, so I will.
It's been first and seconded.
It has been?
Yeah.
So all in favor? Aye.
I,
Anyone opposed?
Okay.
Okay.
Resolution so moved. Anything else from the meeting?
no, we're gonna meet again on the last Monday of the month at 6:30 p.m.
All right, there was no.
Can I say something on the highway? I was up to the highway today, that all the trucks, he's raised all the boxes, he's done all the frames, all the under the boxes, repainted them, every truck's been repainted, the plows have been repainted, he's refurbished everything in that garage. And, so that stuff should last another
10 years.
Yeah, it looks good.
I'm joking,
Yeah.
because I know the building has been.
9 years.
All right. Airport meeting, airport committee did not meet today because we had this meeting and it was just too much to try to coordinate some of the discussion topics for that, so we'll postpone that sometime later, so there's no report for airport. Public safety, Dave, if you want to,
Okay.
I don't, can you, only in the interest of time, I actually have got a few things going on family related, so instead of reading all the minutes, if you just highlight some of the key points.
Okay, well, I don't need to go over the monthly stats. no.
Yeah, I mean, whatever, I don't know what
I mean,
highlights, but
they're here, they're on the website.
Okay.
The only thing that, is Adam brought up, at the last meeting, the light, that new camera that he wanted, I think I sent it to everybody.
I haven't,
All
I
stats.
saw your email, I haven't had a chance to.
He, basically he wants it for, to try to crack down on the drugs and the stuff because it's easy to move and the resolution on it, he can read 300 feet away, he can read a plate, and he said he could zero in on a 2 foot by 2 foot area if he wanted to, but I told him I would bring it up at this meeting to get the general consensus if it's 6,100 and something. Anybody have a chance to look at it?
I didn't look at the details of the camera, it sounds like a good idea to me.
But, I definitely.
Is there money in this year's budget to do that, or would we have to move
I don't know,
money?
I didn't see you put forth a request in any particular line. I mean, I'm not opposed to
No,
it.
no, I don't
Doesn't
think,
have an answer.
no, I don't think we did.
Yeah, so I don't have a problem with it, we have a finance meeting next week, so if we wanted to try to have a conversation with them, they get those remaining questions answered, we could maybe go ahead and try to move forward then next
Okay,
week.
can we do that at the finance meeting?
End up saying next week, because I know you also had a conversation with Storatech,
Right.
cameras,
Yeah.
and I don't.
Well, I've got two, I think I sent everybody that too.
Well,
We got two, he said, he can't find a vandal-proof camera. Bottom line. So,
There's nothing out
so he
there.
wants to get the new ones, and the two proposals that he sent was, for the 3 we wanted to add, plus, well, when you read it, you can see what he said.
So that is two separate deals then, right? One's a portable kind of a deal, and the others are fixed around town, all right?
There's only a couple of them, 2 or 3 of them that could be, that are low enough, like the Kissing Bridge, somebody could knock that out. And the rest of them are all up on top of the roof, so we don't have to worry about.
you had some conversations with Storatech, and I know there's also the other Foresight company, and I just don't know where that's at, so.
I think, no,
Not to get into it right
no,
now.
I'm not
just to
gonna, I
have
just
a-
said StoreTech, we kind of set them aside last meeting, remember? We said,
Yeah, but
we were gonna go with Foresight.
Okay, I don't even know what I wasn't privy to that.
And the only other thing I've got is, I need to make a resolution to accept Paul Rock's resignation as dog control.
Okay.
I'll move it.
Second, with regrets, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
And, oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Rob, aye.
And another resolution to, appoint Rob Frederick as dog control officer.
Okay.
So,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so carried. Okay.
Ken Buzzards, thanks.
Who?
Ken.
No.
All right, Mark's not here for youth, but Joyce, you want to take youth? There's really no report, I think, except for.
I'm brain dead right now.
Okay, so, that's okay. Youth, I don't know if youth had, you guys did have it.
We did have a meeting.
You had a quasi meeting, I don't know if you did you have a forum?
No, we didn't.
You did have a forum, so no official meeting, so, the only thing is we received a request in from Ash Alexander, who was willing to take on the responsibility of being the ice skating rink specialist for this year, this winter season, and I think Buildings and Grounds is having some further discussion as to where that ice skating rink may or may not be located. So,
So moved.
I'll second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So carried. No human services report for seniors, Tom? Nothing.
No, nothing to report.
Health insurance, I don't have anything to report. Contract negotiations, actually I do health insurance, those on retirees are getting a refund this year from monies that, from last year's premium payments. So anyone who's currently on the town's retiree should say, retiree Part C and prescription that we'll receive. We can expect to receive a refund in the mail. That's all I have for health insurance. Contract negotiations, we still need to take care of Juneteenth as a MOA. Need to have a conversation with the different organizations to try to figure out how we want to do that now that that's been made a federal holiday, but it's not necessarily in the contract bargaining agreement. So we'll take care of that. And IT, cable TV, county.
Matt, Joe,
I'm sorry.
contract negotiations, just for my,
Yeah,
looking forward, when are the next collective bargaining agreements up for renegotiation?
they're up next year for the period 2023 for whatever, 2 year, 3 year.
Next year, 2022, you mean?
Yeah, so this is the second year, 2021, 2022 is the third year, 3-year contract, and then, so next year there'll be.
Did we have to be negotiated? Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we have a labor relations consultant that usually helps us with that, because he's kept track of all the changes over the course of the time, and how that's been negotiated. Tony, you sent me something, what did I do with it? You have 2, I think, right?
Yep, Spectrum Northeast will launch the 10th gen on Spectrum Stream TV, Spectrum Lifestyle TV on channel 406. And around November 22nd, Spectrum North LLC will expand Epic's Driving on channel 599 to high definition channel lineup. Done.
Thank you. Okay, general resolutions, of which there's only a couple. First is to accept and correct the minutes of the regular town board meeting October 14th and the budget workshops of the 15th and 21st of October respectively.
I'll move it. Okay, first and second.
Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution authorizing the creation of the following new budget account. So we submitted our ADB back in spring. The state has been, the state's been late in getting back to us. We just recently received some comments back. One of the comments was that the CHIPS expenditures, which had typically been in the contractual line items, a 0.4 line item, they wanted capital outlay in the 0.2s. So this is basically just to create that line item and be able to move funds at probably the finance meeting over to that line item so that for next year's AED annual update document, they'll be in the proper appropriated line, account line. So I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And then I have one more resolution, but it potentially could be 2 resolutions. The first one is a resolution to schedule a public hearing on December 9th of this year at 6 p.m. for the annual 2022 Chilson Volunteer Fire Company contract. I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And then the other one that's not on your list, but potentially could be, I'm still having some conversations with EMS about, as we said last year, we talked about whether we would give them some additional money depending on whether they had any challenges this year with the budget. So I was working with Renee and Patty, trying to see what those are and anticipate whether they would need monies for next year. So I don't know if we want to schedule it. We could always, if you schedule it.
So schedule
Okay. So a resolution to schedule a public hearing on December 9th, 6 p.m. for the annual 2022 Thai EMS contract.
What time?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Same, regular board meeting.
Joe first.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And Matt, if we give funding to them this year, does it require another public hearing since we had one last year, even though we didn't really give them any, provide any money?
If you're gonna update,
This year's contract.
if you're gonna add money to it, so that.
So we probably should do a separate one then for 2021. That's what I'm asking. This is for 2022.
Oh, no, you can do it all together. If you're gonna have a public hearing to add to the 21 contract,
Yeah.
I guess technically you would have 2 public hearings, yes.
Okay. So let's do another one because we need to have a conversation with them.
So,
What's that? Join it?
It's still gonna be December 9th at 6 o'clock.
So 2021 and 22. Okay. You're good, Tony?
And we're doing a separate resolution for it.
Oh, it was, okay.
Yeah.
So resolution, public hearing, annual 2021, Chilson, no, not Chilson, tie in as well. Thank you.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
Have we had any applications, more applications for the after-school program?
No.
No. Just put it out there if anybody knows somebody, high school students who would like to help out with their after-school program.
I believe Sean is going to go to the high school.
Yeah, he was going to, but we still need the applications in hand, so.
What are the hours?
Pardon?
What are the hours?
2:30 to 6:15 roughly, that time period. Although that could change depending on some of the programming that he's looking to do, because he's now a full-time direct supervisor.
Okay.
But yeah, generally Monday through Friday, 2:30 to 6 for the younger kids.
Basement of the honor.
Okay.
It's a good program, and we have a wonderful direct supervisor who we just hired.
Well, my daughter's in high school, so I didn't know, and sometimes she doesn't get out until
That would be
3:53.
great.
So, you know,
Yeah.
depending on her schedule and stuff like that, I don't know if they will release them early. So do you
No, but they can
think
get there at 3 o'clock.
But you can get there at 3.
We always work with the senior, the students.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have her fill out an application.
Okay.
I think Mrs. Itorino actually has the applications. I think she took some of them, so,
I can get them right off the line.
yeah.
Do you have anything else?
Are we adopting the budget tonight?
I was gonna, well, I don't know what the board is, I wanted to just get back with Renee and figure out, some money was set aside already for this year.
Right.
So we were okay. I mean, we can make adjustments for this year's anyways. And then next year's, we can have the public hearing. I guess we've allocated X number of dollars, right, for next year's budget. So if we adopt it tonight, that's set. We can have a public hearing, approve, well, I don't know, we can't approve a higher amount, because the board would have to approve that
No, but
in the budget.
Coming next year, if it's deemed that they can, they need to do a budget adjustment and then.
Or you just leave the public hearing over or something like that.
No.
Or whatever, I guess not.
No,
No.
Okay.
If we don't adopt it today, we could adopt it when? At the next
Yeah,
finance
the
meeting?
finance meeting, because, well, you had some questions you had.
I have a few things, I want to review this, but then I have a couple of questions, so I'm not
Ready to adopt it.
ready to adopt it at this
There's a
point.
question tonight too for the.
As long as we can still adopt it and have it done before the
Right.
deadline,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So, I mean, yeah,
When's your deadline?
By the 20th,
the 20th.
20,
and save Tanya a special board meeting.
the finance committee meeting is next week.
Tanya, this will be like the last one.
Not for me.
So
Just me harassing you about it.
the next finance committee meeting is now scheduled
It's
for
the 10th at 8:30 in the morning.
I asked you, you said that was okay. Okay. I tried to accommodate, I don't want to. I realize you guys are all.
08:30 and not 20:30, right?
Yes.
What time was it?
8:30.
It's down on my calendar, so I'm putting
It's
it
okay.
out there.
But we've already closed your public hearings anyway, so that's where it's all done.
For what?
For the budgets.
Oh, yeah. Right, we met that requirement.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else, Tanya?
No.
Everything? You good? You guys have anything? Joyce?
No.
Greg? No? Okay. Anyone else from the public have any comments? Carol?
No,
See ya?
no, just getting my foot in the door.
Nice that you showed up. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Heath, do you have anything else?
I'm good for the moment.
We'll adjourn.